The hyperinflation episode in the Weimar Republic in the early 1920s was not the first hyperinflation, nor was it the first one in Europe, or even the most extreme inflation in history. The various belligerent governments, unable or too timid or short-sighted to secure from loans or taxes the resources they required, have printed notes for the balance. It was during this period of hyperinflation that French and British economic experts began to claim that Germany destroyed its economy with the purpose of avoiding reparations, but both governments and citizens had conflicting views on how to handle the situation.
Did you hear? We got the new currency. The Rentenmark was introduced. The banks turned the marks over to junk dealers by the ton, like it's useless, like they're going to be recycled as paper.
Does that mean we can get a cat fiber?
Maybe the inflation will end.
It's not us that got themselves into these messes, Katerina. The liberals.
Drago, do you know what they would think if they were to say that? Here, Sonia, have something.
But it's stale.
Be grateful you have that, Sonia. Otherwise, it'll be gone soon, like my savings and every bond that people in this town own.
I would like to purchase these, ma'am.
Do you have any money?
Well, no.
Then what good are you to me?
With its goal depleted, the German government attempted to buy foreign value currency with German currency. But this caused the German mark to fall rapidly in value.
Which increased the number of marks needed to buy more foreign currency.
Right, Mom?
That's right.
And why we barely have enough food for Mama, me, and my brother.
That's right. When people realized that their money was rapidly losing value, they tried to spend it quickly. It wasn't a very smart idea, because you can see how we're living now. The government knew if they had stopped the inflation, this would cause immediate bankruptcies, strikes, and hunger. And when people are hungry, they get violent. Violence means revolution, and revolution puts the government, not just the people, at edge. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Our leaders were trying to stop unemployment.
If they continued the inflation, they would default on the money, and other nations would have to owe them.
I have a question, Mom. When is butter coming home?
I don't know, son.
In January 1923, French and Belgian troops occupied the Ruhr, the industrial region of Germany in the Ruhr Valley, to ensure that the reparations were paid in goods, such as coal from the Ruhr and other industrial zones of Germany. Because the mark was practically worthless, it became impossible for Germany to buy foreign exchange or gold using paper marks. Instead, reparations were paid in goods. Inflation was exacerbated when workers in the Ruhr went on a general strike, and the German government printed more money in order to continue paying them for passively resisting.
Sire, we can no longer afford to pay our reparations.
What do you mean our reparations? It was the Treaty of Versailles that forced them upon us.
I'm simply saying that the people are getting angry. We cannot afford for our country to go bankrupt and our people to go hungry.
I do not care as much about the people growing us hungry as I care about my job. You are correct, the people are growing hungry, but I am more concerned about them growing angry. I am not going to let the common man kick me out of office.
We do not have as much power as it is.
Schacht was correct. During the Weimar Republic, the Chancellor had very little power. The Chancellor was appointed by the President and was responsible for the Reichstag. Under the Weimar Republic, the Chancellor was a weak figure that served as little more than a chairman. Cabinet decisions were made by the majority vote. After November 1923, when Hjalmar Schacht became currency commissioner, the Reichsbank, the old central bank, was not allowed to discount any further government treasury bills, which meant the corresponding issue of paper marks also stopped. The new Rentenbank refused credit to the government and to speculators who were not able to borrow Rentenmarks, because Rentenmarks were not legal tender. This created an awful economic downturn all across Germany. But in 1924, things got better. Once civil stability has been restored, the new Reichskanzler, Gustav Stresemann, began stabilizing the German currency, which prompted confidence in the German economy and helped the recovery that was so ardently needed for the German nation to keep up with their reparation repayments. while at the same time feeding and supplying the nation. He restored a new pride in the German nation and brought an era known as the Germany's Roaring Twenties. As the former creditor of the world, England was prosperous before World War I. However, with the high cost of war, England became a debtor nation just like any other European power at the time. The lack of German reparations had drove Europe, including England, into depression, leading to the period of the gloomy 30s, a period of poverty and unemployment.
Another cotton mill was just closed down. My uncle and his chaps have gone on so long without any work. Factories and factories have been closing down.
Willie, that's how it is everywhere. You're a lucky lad and you can still rely on those unemployment checks. How long until that ends?
Oh no, seems indefinite.
Boy, you still got 6 weeks left. Johnny and I here have been living on 2 shillings to keep up. Imagine, 2 shillings to support 3 little ones and the wife?
I hear it's not only mills shutting down. Remember Charlie from the steel yard? We've all been out of work too. Lads, I think we're going to be in this for the long haul. I can feel it.
Oh, me too. With so much of the other workers demanding so much changes in pay, conditions, and whatever else. I doubt we would ever get to work again.
I'm still trying, continuously been walking around trying to find something, but there's still no luck. All I got to live on is the stale bread and the last cup of margarine in a broken cupboard.
Well, nothing will get better until we begin exporting again. Those Japanese have been getting a hold of that. We cannot just rely on the same economic plan and expect a change. It's hopeless.
No hope. We have nothing else. There's nothing left to do.
Similar to the rest of Europe, France was in an economic ruin. The reliance on Germany's war reparations was hurting their economy, making it impossible to rebuild, and was quickly driving France into depression. Despite knowing Germany's economic state, the French still insisted on pestering the Germans for money and bred even more problems for Europe to handle.
I can no longer take this. Our families are rather well off compared to the rest of the men and women of this nation. But we're going to run out of money soon.
I know. I thought stationing the troops in Ruhr would actually do something, but it looks like Poincaré is just as desperate as us.
If you ask me, that only makes things worse, forcing Germany to pay their war reparations with the hyperinflation. That's really only going to make them and the reminders of Europe look down upon us.
The Dawes plan worked to a certain extent. Germany's situation is improving as well as Europe's. Even though Germany paid less for the reparations than they originally hoped to.
Well, what we ended up with was a party of socialists that were so disorganized that they amounted to practically nothing. How did they even get elected? It's as if the lower classes taken over the government.
In all fairness, the Bloc National did not do as well either. They just seem to harbor ill feelings but for the lower class.
It is better than just having a group of socialists who do not have the slightest clue what they're doing.
I do not know. The popular front seems to be improving. Bloom is helping this country. But still, does not seem like the economy is going to make any strides to the future.
True, did you hear? A place next to the Garons' work went on strike again. They were able to calm down and get them back to work, but it appears the whole country is angry.
Tom's place went up in a riot only the other day as well.
This is ridiculous. Our leaders and governments change practically every 7 months. What they say is for the benefit of the people, but everywhere it seems to be in chaos.
At the very least, we are no longer fighting. Now that the war is over, we just need to figure things out from here.
In order to fund the war, the government printed more money. The value of the ruble sharply declined, creating instability and high prices. Shortages due to the breakdown in communications also caused a spike in prices. Many people, specifically intellectuals, dancers, writers, and artists, emigrated to other countries in Europe and outside of Europe. Since 1834, the school has been situated at 2 Rossi Streets in St. Petersburg, which was renamed Leningrad after Vladimir Lenin's death in 1924. The Imperial Ballet School was dissolved by the new Soviet government, causing many dancers to leave Russia. As a girl, Alexandra Danilova trained at the Russian Imperial Ballet School in Leningrad, but in 1924 shocked everyone when she and her choreographer George Balanchine left Russia.
Dear Mama, life in US is harder than expected. Although, I shouldn't really say that because as you said in your last letter to me, food is basically unattainable. I'm used to cold weather and winters, but what really makes me homesick is the way I'm treated in New York. People do not seem to care or show concern for economic situation back home, even dancers in my own company. I tried to explain that large amount of food was necessary to feed soldiers. Raw materials like metals were used mainly to produce weapons, and requisitioning of horses and fertilizers was common. My last letter alone took 5 months to arrive here. I only hope the next one doesn't take that long. Dear daughter, unfortunately your family situation has not gotten better. Your youngest brother was forced into conscription today, and your father's illness has not gotten any better either. Love, Mama. This is in large part related to the fact that the Tsar decided to fight with his soldiers and left the administration of the country in the hands of his wife, the Tsarina Alexandra, and Rasputin. They dismissed all able ministers and hired friends and toadies who were not able to run empire properly. Usually statements like this would not blow over well, but as long as it's on print, it's safe in my thoughts. As my mother said, economic situations heighten drastically by effects of conscription. If there are no men in family, there is basically no income. That's why I have to work hard in New York, not for myself, but for my family.
You're a lucky lad, and you can still rely on those unemployment checks. How long until that ends?
Boy, you still got 6 weeks left. Johnny out here.
Shit, my bad.
And they knew that we were doing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you hear? We got the new currency. The rental mark was introduced. The banks turned the marks over to junkie.
Here, have some bread, Sonny.
But it's dead.
Son, we can no longer afford to pay out reparations.
Give us a smolder look. Give us a smolder look. How would you look? How would you look at the person when you're trying to get them, like, pick them up? Like you're trying to get with them.
How would you look at someone when you want them to think you're really attractive? Like a face is kind of like a hot face.
Ace of spades, 5% tax, behind these all black shades. Number 9J, if you live your city like me, rap with stay. My campaign